Buddy, you there, buddy? Are you sleeping, buddy?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is emphasis on sleep this week. I'm reading right here that
you got to get caught up on it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I got to sleep. Got to rest. Got to rest.
Well, it's time change too. He's getting ready.
Yeah.
That's my theory. Got to get ready for the deal. Well, what's going on, buddy, Martin?
Well, hey, listen. Anything to help the road-weary Gators win a game on the road if it takes extra sleep, whatever. They got to get it done this weekend, Brenden. This is a very important. We said that last week.
Must win.
It is a must win. Yes, you're right.
I know.
So
we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
We got Allie Peak in the orange and blue room.
Allie Peak.
Allie Peak Wilbur.
Allie Peak Wilbur. Allie Wilbur.
She's coming on here shortly.
That's always good.
That's always good stuff.
And tonight, Edgar Thompson, the guy who kind of got blown off by Billy kind of blew him off on the question about whether he was getting better. And so we're going to ask Edgar what was exactly said. And then David Moulton night. What else could you want, man? Good night tonight.
Power pack night here in the Buddy Martin Show. Hey, if you
smash it.
Smash it. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that subscribe button down there in your lower right. To your lower right, you'll find a YouTube button. Please click it, subscribe. It helps us out. It works out the show, buddy. You need to wake up. I have something that'll wake you up. We've got so much to offer. So much to offer tonight. And right after this, we're going to take a nap and we're going to talk to Allie Peak.
Yes.
On the Buddy Martin Show.
Becky Carlisle.
Big show.
Yes, big show.
Big show.
Really, really, really big show.
Huge.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
And we're back on the Buddy Martin Show with the one and only. I don't have any drum roll, but
Allie, where are you? Allie. We can't be on the air, and we got people like Dan Bond saying, "Bring on Allie." We're not even on the air, Dan. We're gonna get her on. She's here now.
We're gonna get there. Relax.
Just relax. Take a deep breath. Okay, go to sleep. Get some sleep. Good week. Are you getting sleep, Allie, this week?
I have not gotten a lot of sleep this week, actually.
You look like you're sleep deprived, Allie. I got to tell you.
I am sleep deprived.
I can't imagine why. It's because you got two sets of twins and
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how that.
Big toddler at home too, by the way.
I do, and I have a big toddler at home.
Yeah. So, well, listen, I'm going to tell you, your boy Shelton. Props out to him, a high top. Very nice comments today, Brenden. Right?
Oh, yeah, they did a nice job. They used the part of the Urban Meyer interview. Totally like, go check it out. And Buddy Martin, props to him. Just the proper way to do something like that. They just handle it really well.
You know why?
You
know why?
Why?
We told him we knew you.
Oh, shut
So we know Allie.
Is awesome. And and Dave over there as well. Holly, they're all really, really good. Really nice guys.
Don't be spending too much time over there though. Okay. You're two-timing us. All right. And I'm watching you.
Whatever. That's a great show. I enjoyed that show. I watch it. You're great. You're great with them, by the way. You guys do a good show. It's interesting.
They're fun.
Yeah. So the big emphasis is on sleep this week.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'll try anything. One thing, they went on the road, get some sleep, get some rest, eat your breakfast, do your homework, brush your teeth, whatever it takes to win.
Yep.
Got to do something, don't they, Allie? Got to do something.
My first reaction was, a little bit of an eye roll. But here's the thing. You've got to try something, right?
Absolutely,
and if
yeah.
it doesn't work, at least you're showing that you're willing to try different things. So I feel like that's, whether or not it works aside, I think it's a positive.
It's like a baseball slump. A baseball player gets in a slump, they'll do anything. They're superstitious. They'll change bats. They'll change uniforms. They won't wash your jersey. I mean, baseball players are the most superstitious people. Now, football players are too.
Football can get that way.
You're married to one. They get a little bit of antsy.
Especially kickers.
Yeah, kickers are really. Well, he's not a kicker. He's a punter.
Rubber bands on his wrist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you ever look at any of the old film, he's always snapping these rubber bands on his wrist because some kicking coach told him, to do this to get yourself focused, and he literally did it his whole time at UF.
Wow. There's
wow.
one for you.
Learn something new every day.
Let's make a list of those things, man. All those crazy.
Baseball's. I wouldn't touch the foul line when I ran onto the field when I was a kid. It was like never. There's all sorts of superstitions in baseball.
Well, I just didn't get any base hits. That was my way I saw mine. I just didn't hit the ball, so I didn't have to worry about it. Hey, here's one for you. A new love fest is breaking out between a bulldog and a gator. Have you heard about this, Allie?
No, tell me.
Kirby Smart loves him some Steve Spurrier.
Okay.
Today's story was in the press conference. They had to have the telephone call they do. He says, first off, I wasn't aware, but he's an incredible person. And man, Smart said of Spurrier, I have a lot of respect for him. He abused me as a player, but that's kind of neither here nor there. Kirby Smart, loving him some Steve Spurrier, ball coach. How about that? A Gator and a Bulldog. Wow.
There you go. I mean, it's hard not to love Steve Spurrier, so
Yes,
I can understand that.
Yeah, he's pretty popular right now. And as someone said the other day, the worse the Gators do, the better they love Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer.
And everywhere it goes,
both of them will tell you that they felt the heat when they were in Napier's seat before, too. So I mean, I'm sure they can relate to what he's going through.
Allie, what have you been talking about on your show this week? I caught a little bit of it, but what all have you been talking about?
So we've talked a little bit about this game coming up. We've talked about like midseason grades, where we would put all of the different, positions and where we are a little bit disappointed, maybe places like the offensive and defensive line, places where we've seen some growth, linebackers, been kind of disappointed in special teams, over excited about Mertz compared to, the hype for him coming into the season. So, spent some time with that. I actually talked to your boy, Shane Matthews, today. It's going to run tomorrow. And he had, as always, really interesting perspective on the offense, on Napier, on who he thinks we can upset later in the season. So that's exciting as well. But, I think Gator fans are just kind of in a show me, don't tell me, like, state of mind at the moment. They just need to see some on the road success, I think. And, I've been trying to look at our road games under Napier and try to see, like, is it really home or away, or is it the fact that we've played some of our tougher opponents away since Napier has gotten here? Utah away is hard. Last year, we had a lot of really tough games. We went to Florida State. Georgia is considered an away game every single year. We've played some tough teams on the road, but I think the conclusion I've come to is it's not really that we've lost. It's that we've looked unprepared. I think had we gone in with Kentucky and just toe-to-toe, blow for blow, and we ended up losing, that Gator fans would be looking at this situation
100%. 100%. Exactly.
I'm just looking, I need to see that we look more prepared on the road. Even if we don't win, I need to know that we look as up for the game as we do when they take place in the swamp.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So what do you think about Napier's, sort of, I don't know, proclamation or whatever, but, new rules set to get to bed early and, sort of maybe he's seeing obviously a slow start. They're doing everything, that they can to sort of jumpstart, the morning and get everyone there earlier. I mean, or maybe you're prepping them for daylight savings. I don't know, but
after, I want to say it was Shamar James made the comments after Kentucky, like, yeah, it was a noon game. Like, I don't know if we were up for it or whatever. Like, I would have had him up at 6 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you can't be up for a noon game, we're
Yeah.
going to up even earlier. You're going to be ready. I don't know that I think this is going to have any difference, but I'm excited that he's willing to try something. I do think athletes are incredibly routine-oriented creatures. So it could go really well, could go really bad, but it's trying something. They need a spark. They need something to change. And even if it's, just all in their heads, hey, we did something different, so now we're ready to go. I mean, who knows? But, I think with Napier, in so many aspects, we're all just looking to see if he's willing to change. So maybe this is a sign of better things.
Yeah. Hey, Brenden, I got an idea. Let's
What's
get
that?
Allie what we did last night on the show when we talked about what player has impressed us the most.
Oh, yeah.
We'll take not Mertz, but take him out.
Yeah, so, take Mertz out.
And take out the running back.
Offense or defense,
Offense, defense, one
special
player
teams, whatever.
Like I had two. I had the two linebackers.
Okay.
And those guys that would impress me the most. So it's guys that haven't stepped up. So
that's what Scooby Williams was going to be the first person that came to mind for me. And I think it's because the linebackers were one of the more disappointing position groups last year. So to see such a change in them, I think is great. I think, and Florida's defense as a whole is much improved. I think they still have a long way to go, though. And I think that sometimes our stats make us look maybe a little bit better than they actually are. I need to see another speed. I need to see him get to the quarterback more. I need to see them cause fumbles or get some interceptions. Like we never win the turnover battle. But it's improving. But linebacker is probably the individual position that I've been the most impressed with. And honestly, I think Graham Mertz has done well. I mean, we heard all summer how, we just missed in the transfer portal and he was terrible at Wisconsin. So he's going to be terrible at Florida. And he's done everything that we've asked him to do. He's been a game manager, but he's been more truly than that as well. So he's been a leader. He's mentally and physically tough. I mean, unfortunately, he's had to show us that more often than we would like him to have. So I think he's pretty impressive. Somebody commented Jaden Hill. Jaden is better when Jaden Hill is healthy.
Well, he's been hot and cold, though. He's been hot and cold. He's gotten beat on some plays and not looked good on some other times. He makes great plays. I don't think he's consistent enough, in my opinion.
Positions too, and that I think that could be a factor as well. But I think our defense is better when he's on the field. Yeah,
Brenden, who did you have? I've forgotten.
I went Princely, which everyone gave me much crap about, but I thought that he had, his position. As Graham and I were talking about last night, specifically, which just doesn't often show up on the statistics of how they play defense. And how they've come, they seem to improve every year, each year in, year out. That it feels like he's really settled into that spot on the edge, and I think that was.
Now, if we could just keep him off social media, it would be fine.
What was that all about? What was that all about?
I don't know.
Ripping the fans.
I think in the comments of. His stats were highlighted last year. And I think in the comments of some of those posts, Gator fans had some negative things to say. And so he shot back at them. And, I don't think fans should attack a player individually.
Well, and players shouldn't respond to it.
But players shouldn't respond. You've got to have thicker skin. Don't look for posts with your name in it.
Yeah.
But haven't we all sort of been there when we were younger and you just took a shot at a troll and you're like, look, you unload on them?
No.
Absolutely.
One thing you learned and I learned is when pitching baseball, do not have rabbit ears.
No, but I don't think on camera, but I've gone after a few, back in the day of some Facebook groups and all that stuff.
You got put in jail 3 times too, but no.
Not in but I'm just saying, I think we've all sort of had, a bad moment.
Have to grow up on social media.
It's so hard.
Some of these kids do, but I do think players in general just stay off social media. Don't comment. There's no, and Gator fans are every other rabid fan base in the country.
No doubt. But how do you do that with the NIL? Like, how do you say?
You can't. And I think, like, Urban used to do sometimes social media bans, and I totally agree with them. Saban did as well. It's a lot harder in the NIL era. I don't know that coaches could do it because
I don't think you could.
Players are making money. But as a, it's the same concept. We shouldn't go on message boards and search our names because we're never going to love the
oh
things
my God, no.
say about us. And half the people aren't going to agree with us all the time.
Right.
I've made that mistake. I can still remember being like 20 years old, still in college covering Gators, and somebody wrote that I looked like a tropical bird. And guys, this,
I've had it. Yeah, I know.
39, right? And I still remember that. And I should never have looked. Like, we know these things, and we still, as adults, sometimes screw up.
That's not even true. Not even close to being a tropical bird.
Well, listen, it is what it is.
Maybe a peacock or something. But
wow, shots fired by Buddy Martin.
Well, no. Hopefully it won't bother me as much.
Damn.
As it
wow.
Did. But,
we wanted her to come back, Dad.
No, she's good. She's got a 10-year contract with us. We
that ironclad.
And we double her salary every week.
Oh, man,
there you go. What else
do
you want? I mean, we just have to have the most popular, but biggest, fastest rising star on the internet, and there you go. So, and by the way, Edgar's coming on in a minute, and I want to ask him exactly what his response to Billy's comment was when Edgar made his question, and Billy said, "Where were you last week?" And that question on Tennessee, which is really one of the stupidest responses I've ever heard. They weren't playing Tennessee. They got beat by Kentucky. I mean, come on. Anyway, so I mean, look, Billy has made a few steps. The biggest thing about Billy right now, the big thing is that we all heard about the offense. We know some players complained privately about the lack of, wrinkles in the offense, and we all know that he's had assistant coaches who can't count to 11 made those mistakes, and repeating that mistake was terrible.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that because I read this story last week, I think it was written, Matt Baker wrote it, talking about that actually when Florida hired him, Scott Strickland vetted Billy to make sure he was capable of handling, the pressure. They vetted him on the thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, I want to get Edgar in here, is that he looks like he's too laid back. I think there needs to be more of a sense of urgency appearance with him, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think his laid back attitude is good like 90% of the time. I think there are times when it's frustrating to us. We want to see some emotion. But I think for me, we know Billy Napier is a good person. We know about the things that happen behind closed doors. We know how he is in individual interactions with us. I wish that came across more in his press conferences. I wish he was more personable. I think we saw a tiny glimpse of that today when he joked that like his wife asked him about Steve Spurrier's comments throwing the ball deep and stuff. Like, those insights give him grace when things don't go his way. When the media likes you and the fans like you as a person, you do get a tiny bit more rope, and Steve Spurrier is a great example of somebody who just has so endeared himself to the fan base. And I wish there was some sort of training that we could give Napier, because he needs a little bit of that.
Well, Edgar's training pretty good. And Edgar, what were you doing ticking off the head coach last week with a question like that?
Which one?
It was which one? Right.
I've been training coaches since Allie was a student in Dayton era.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And I've been training them since you were knee high to a grasshopper, pal. Just remember that, okay?
Oh, here we go.
It's true, but I told Billy when I first met him, he was my sixth head coach. So he's like, "That's not good." But no, I never covered Spurrier, unfortunately. But I didn't realize that made it on camera when he said that his wife's got some personality. She's funny.
I didn't hear that comment just now. I did not tell Allie brought it up. I
just saw somebody write about it. I don't know if it ended
Edgar,
up.
You were there?
Were you there? Yeah, he said it right at the beginning. Well, so Billy had the people serve us dinner from downstairs. Now the players are eating well. I'm telling you, I was raving about the blackberries. They're like the size of golf balls. They have some good.
Edgar bought off with the blackberries. He bought him off with blackberries.
they have some real good fruit source there. But no, so Billy fed us, and Nick Delatorre, who's pretty witty for sure, was like, "Hey, can't ask you about your play calling tonight after you fed us," and he laughed, which was good to see. Yeah. And was like, "Yeah, my wife's asking me why Steve Spurrier wants us to throw the ball downfield."
I love that. Props. That's the best thing I heard all year, right?
The things we need to see.
Yeah. Well, good for him.
Billy's funny. He's clever. He's very personable. In front of the microphone, I think he tries to present and have a plan. Like, he writes notes. He's very organized. If anyone watched SEC Media Days, he just like went off a script for like 10 minutes.
That's great.
I think he trusts his instincts enough in front of the camera, and I'd like to see it translate. I've said this to other people, to his game play calling a little bit, maybe, and just stuff like that. Just let it get a little looser there, man, and have a little more fun. It's not like maybe everyone thinks Billy's, oh God, he's on the hot seat. Billy's not going anywhere. Yeah. So, and Billy should know that and trust that, and just trust his gut a little bit more.
That's promising. I want to get back to that point you just made, because Urban told us this, and told me several times, that there's nobody more tense than Urban on the sideline. But he always has one play, and Eric knows this because he was in the game where he did it, where he was taught to come up with some play that's totally off the wall. And he calls it, on his, pardon my French, on the bottom of his play sheet, is let the MFer go, which is basically, call a play that a fake punt when nobody expects it. And that was ingrained in him by his coaches and stuff. And that's kind of what I'd like to see Billy do, which I'm really encouraged in what you said about him joking about Spurrier and his wife. That's perfect. And so I'm glad to see that. I think that's one of the big things. He's so uptight.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think he's just very regimented, and I think he wants to do the right thing, and he is so organized. But there is a part of football that is instinctual and just spontaneous, and that's, I think, the part that we're missing a little bit.
All right, what about
that was well said. Hey, by the way, I want to give Allie some props, because I saw on Twitter you've already gotten 1 million people to watch your YouTube channel. My God.
She's a superstar.
That's amazing.
Now Edgar will never get her back on. Thanks. We finally got her calmed down. Now she's got to take it again. We'll never be
You're slumming it with us, man.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Now she knows the secret.
Thank you very much. I'm proud.
That was pretty impressive. You're welcome.
Well, she's been doing an impressive job for her. I just feel lucky that we get to be on with her. So let's get to the question that I'm throwing the ball deep.
Okay.
We talked about it all week. Shane and I talked about it all week. You've talked about it, and now even Billy's wife is talking about it. If it's as simple as throwing the ball deep, I think they could do it. And one of the things that Shane told me Tuesday was, if you throw the ball down the field 10 times and complete 3 of them, you've had a good day. Mm-hmm. So Edgar and then Allie, why has he not been throwing the ball down the field?
I mean, the O-line is an issue. He mentioned that tonight. I asked him about vertical passing, maybe complementing the rest of the offense, opening the run game a bit. Some of those screens they were throwing in the flats, safeties playing a little deeper, corners, giving a little more space. If they think you're going to go deep, it would open everything up a little bit if they could just drop 1 or 2 of those in there. He went there a little bit, but I think right now, he mentioned the continuity in the offensive line has been a real issue, and Graham's taken some punishment there. In fact, I spoke to Graham's quarterbacks coach, Justin Hoover, since he was been 12 years old. He's worked with this one guy. And Justin was talking about how if one of those would drop, it would just kind of open everything up. But he wants to do what the offense needs him to do. And this is Graham. And there's, he's also a guy kind of like Billy. He wants to be maybe a little too perfect at times and holds it and wants everything just to kind of be perfect. So we'll see. I think Eugene Wilson getting involved, Arliss Boardingham getting involved. Yeah. Andy Jean is injured this week and out. I'd like to see them put Mizell on the field.
Aiden Mizell, let's see him. Yeah,
they might not want to burn his red shirt, but he's a burner. And Ricky Pearsall is a good player. So I think you could maybe open it up a little bit. I don't know. Graham hasn't shown great accuracy on that either. But the bottom line is Florida is last in the SEC in 30-yard passes. They only have 6 this year. And that's tough. And the other stat I'll throw out before I give the Florida Alley here is they're averaging 34-some minutes of time of possession, which leads the league, but only 2.6 touchdowns, which is last in the league. So that isn't a good correlation there. I mean, they're trying to grind these drives out. And when you're doing that, a penalty, a bad play, you get behind the chains. It's just hard to sustain drives that way and score. And they're showing that right now.
Allie, one of the things that Shane said also was he went back and looked at his play sheet. The times they had Boardingham and they had Wilson and they had Pearsall on the field. The two longest running plays they have are that group right there, which tells you, if you throw the ball, then you can run the ball better, right?
Well, yeah, if the defense respects the threat that's on the field wide receiver wise, it is going to make it easier to run the ball. If they know you're not throwing the ball no matter what, then it makes it incredibly hard to establish a running game. But I think Edgar's right. First and foremost, I think the issue is offensive line. There has been several injuries. There's not been a lot of continuity. They haven't been very good. Graham Mertz has been on his butt a lot. And even if he's not on his butt, he's been hurried. So that is problem one. This offense is better when Trey Wilson's on the field. Boardingham showed up against Vanderbilt, and that has helped. I think part of the long ball is if Pearsall is seen as our only option and he's double teamed, I don't know that Mertz is making great reads after looking for Ricky. And so that might be part of the problem. But getting Wilson involved more in the offense, getting Boardingham, if we bring in Mizell, anybody, the more options on the field, the more likely they are to be able to attempt the long balls. And I talked to Shane today, and he told me the exact same thing about, if you can connect on 3 out of 10. And I'd be interested to see us try. We did open it up a tiny bit more against Vanderbilt. The offense was a little bit more creative. So that was, I know it's Vanderbilt, but that was, kind of exciting to see. But this offensive line being healthy is the first and foremost step to this, I think. And so, we'll see. But explosive plays, Edgar mentioned where we fall in, 35-yard plays or 30-yard plays. I think we had 3 plays longer than 30 yards last year. And that was one of the things Urban used to preach was if you hit over a certain number of explosive plays, then your odds to win the game just exponentially increase. And we're averaging 2 or 3 plays longer than 30 yards a game, which is just not good enough.
Yeah, I'll say this. Caleb Douglas, they took the shot at Kentucky, if you recall, early in that game. And Graham was pretty off on the throw.
Yes,
now,
sir.
I think he was throwing it to a certain spot. Did Caleb run the right route? You just don't know. You can look at it and be, oh, God, Graham missed him by a mile, or did Caleb not, run the right route? We're just not sure. But now he's out, and I see Dustin here. I'm not to steal your thunder, buddy. But Dustin is saying, bummer Douglas is hurt, because he is a nice threat who really can win the ball, high point it and do those things.
Yeah.
But I do think Wilson, I want to see, here's the thing. Billy talked today on the SEC teleconference. He said, offense, all 11 players have to be in unison and all this kind of stuff. But on defense, there can be a bust and a guy can get a sack and it's all forgiven. Well, it's the same thing on offense now. And I don't know that Billy thinks in the modern offensive way at times, because you see guys just get them in space, man, and let them operate. That's the game more now than, trying to be perfect and run the Packer sweep and everyone's, executing or whatever. You don't even have to. If you get Trey Wilson in space, he makes one move, man, that guy can pull a Tony or a Harvin and be gone.
That's the Urban Meyer offense. Get athletes in space right there, get the ball drawn. All right, so we're going to go a little bit. We're going to ask our sponsors to bear with us tonight. Our fine folks over at Renstar, the folks at Moulton Law, and Titan MRI, because we got a good show. We don't want to have to get people off too early, and we're going to be a little late coming to David because we don't get people like this together at one time very often. So let's light it up and go, and Brenden will just lay off the spots for right now. And let's go with the next question, which mine is, let's start with you, Allie, and then Edgar, and then Brenden, if you want to join in. The offense, is it more personnel? Is it coaching? Is it formations? Is it timing? What is it exactly that's missing? Or is Billy just not a good offensive coordinator? Allie?
So I don't know that we know 100% the answer to that. My assumption is Billy knows what he wants to run for his offense. He knows what he wants it to look like. I don't think we quite have the pieces to run it in the way that he wants to. I think the problem is he's not adapting. I think that you can say, hey, this is not the offense I want to run, as soon as I get all my guys in, but I'm going to run XYZ now because it's what will work with the pieces that I have. And I think that that's what's missing. And Buddy, we've talked about this before. Yeah. This happened to Meyer in 2005. Yeah. When he came in, he knew what he wanted to run. And by game 5, he was running a different system because he just realized he didn't have the pieces to the puzzle to run it the way he wanted to. Now, by 2008, it was clicking exactly like he wanted it to. But you couldn't run it at the very beginning. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now. And we need Billy to be able to tweak the ultimate plan and have a plan that works for right now.
Edgar, if you were going to hire an offensive coordinator right now, this is a question. People say Curran Bell. There's all kinds of names out there. First of all, Billy's not going to give that up, in my opinion, Edgar. He'll go somebody on the staff unless he can find somebody. What's your opinion about that? Do you think he's going to hire an offensive coordinator next year? Because that's what the recruits are saying. They're saying people are saying, what's going to happen, Edgar?
I mean, you keep hearing, I'm pretty confident there's going to be some change there. You hear they're telling recruits. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't had a recruit tell me he's being told that, but you hear they're being told. A lot of this stuff is, unsubstantiated rumors, but I would infer that there is going to be a change somehow with this offense, especially the passing element of it. I think, I talked to Jordan Rogers at the SEC Media Days. He's like, the run concepts that Billy and Rob Sale run are really good. Yeah. What that means, don't ask me. But the passing concepts need to be more sophisticated. If you remember, David Pollock last year, early in last season, was criticizing the route concepts, that they're just not, they're very simplistic. They don't spread it out either very much. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see them spread it out more and whatever they got to do to juice the passing game a little bit more. Someone was noting to me, what was it, Kentucky? They had like trips on one play. All 3 guys ran the same route, just at different depths. I mean, that's not the kind of sophistication you want to see in your passing game. So I think Billy's going to have to admit to himself what he know what he doesn't know. And he's very good at a lot of aspects of running a football program, clearly. But I mean, his track record speaks for itself. But I think he needs help. I mean, you're just looking at the statistics, man. I mean, whether it's the long passing, they're averaging 22.8 points a game against FBS teams. It's second to last to South Carolina. It's not gonna be an offensive showdown this week. But neither team put pressure on the passer, so who knows? But I don't know, man. I think ETN needs to be more involved in different ways. I'd love to see him try to put Trevor and Montreal on the field at the same time, maybe. Just try some stuff. I'm sorry to see Andy Jeans hurt because I really was starting to kind of like him.
Yeah, me too.
Just get some pieces out there. If you trust Graham Mertz to be able to read progression, see the field, you trust his football intelligence, give him some things to work with and let him make some decisions.
What are the odds, I'll ask Brenden too, that we'll see a true special teams coach, Allie?
Dear Lord, please, dear God, hire a special teams coach.
Spoken like the wife of a punter.
I will beat this drum. This is the hill I will die on. Hire a damn special teams coach. It has directly cost Florida points this season. It will continue to do that if you don't have a special teams coach. It matters. It's 1/3 of the game. And if you're not going to be really, really good on offense and really, really good on defense, you sure as heck needs to at least be serviceable on special teams. And I mean, I guess we have a kicker now, so that's good. But our procedural penalties penalties. I mean, this team has shown me penalties that I've never actually seen in real life 2 different times this season.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was the second one?
There was one against the 2
the
numbers
double threes
field I had never seen, and then the penalty for blocking the wedge was not something I had seen in real life either.
The shield.
Yes. Well, Eric will refer to it as the wedge, but yes, 3 guys right in front.
She knows too much.
I think it's really, really important, and I think your special teams coach needs to be on the field. I think he needs to be able to talk to your kicker, talk to your punter, figure out their. I'm honestly scared about what kind of trick plays we're going to see this week. Beamer off to scheme for us, and we're terrible on special teams. Like this is not going to be great. But I think it's important, and I think it's one of those things where you have to be self-reflective. Okay, what things were we not good at this year? We weren't good on special teams, and we're not great at play calling. Okay, how do we upgrade at those two? In those 2 areas.
Yeah. And so we're going to bring David Moulton in just a second, and we'll see what he says about all this. But here's the thing with the offensive coordinator. Am I wrong about this? Edgar and Allie and Brenden, we talked about it. If he's really the offensive coordinator, Rob Sale, why on this timeouts on the sideline is he never with the quarterback?
Because he's not
because he's not an offensive coordinator. That's why.
I think Billy likes to give fancy titles, and it's a way of like throwing respect and money and whatever else. But I mean, we have there's a passing game czar down there, and special teams king somewhere else, game changer, whatever. I don't know if these titles actually mean what they think they mean.
Go ahead, I'll end on this because I know you got other guests coming.
Oh no,
I don't think he can hire within. Personally,
Russ
Callaway's a name you hear.
Yeah, what's
up with him? His dad was a 50-year offensive line coach or something. So, and he did coach at Samford as an OC, and they were pretty good. So maybe he could work, but it'd be a hard sell. Here's the problem: if you go back to Muschamp, 13, excuse me, they needed to make a change. They had to give Kurt Roper 3-year guaranteed deal. It was $1.8 million at the time for 3 years. Now to get a guy is going to be at least $3 million, if not more. If you got to bring a guy in and guarantee him, because the future of the program is potentially tenuous. I personally think that he should get till 2025, really almost bar anything. I know fans don't want to hear it, and I just think you got to give this guy time. You can't keep churning this thing. But he has to get someone in here that is top shelf on offense. And you're not going to get a top shelf guy unless you get him and pay him a lot and guarantee that money, because no one's going to come here otherwise.
Yeah, and speaking of a guy who has a title, I mean, here he is, self-proclaimed, the most fabulous sports talk show host. Wait a minute, he's sleeping. David, you better go on Billy Napier's sleep program. You're going to sleep. David, are you there?
David. David Moulton.
How is Hi, David.
How is everyone?
We're okay. You got a new thing going on there with the beard? Huh?
Well, I've been on the road a lot. I hate shaving.
Okay. So
me too.
Not on purpose. Let's take a vote on it right now. Who likes it? I like it. I like it. We like it.
I don't know, David. It's flowing. I just shaved a beard off.
I love it.
Big old gray beard. I look like Santa.
I got you, David. I love it. I hate shaving, man.
Okay, right. Keep it, buddy. All right. So while this illustrious group is here, I think Edgar's about to bolt on us.
Well, no, I won't, but I'll listen. I just don't want to dominate the combo. I mean, I'll talk all night.
We all have to be quiet now because David has his contract. He has to talk for 10 minutes before we say anything.
Wow. So, I don't know where that contract is.
I know, right?
I've been listening to you guys for the last 8 minutes. I don't know how you could disagree with anything that you have said. Allie, you're so right about them needing a special teams coach. I believe analytically they're the worst special teams in the country. in
Which
terms
is
of
so painful for Gator fans because we've been so good on special teams for years and years and years. Like we could suck at everything else, but we at least are good on special teams, and now we're not.
Edgar is so right about to bring in a top-notch offensive coordinator. You're going to have to guarantee him 3 years because in theory he will probably only have 2. So you're going to have to pay him for 2026, whether he's working here or not. It's going to cost probably $2 million a year guaranteed minimum. And Edgar, Allie and I think have been pounding the table for weeks now saying the Gator Nation needs to accept you've got to give this guy through 2025, A, the hand he was dealt, B, the approach that he and Scott Strickland agreed they were going to take, which was the long, slow, brick by brick approach. So if you agreed to do it, then you have to let them do it. Unfortunately, their schedule this year and next year is brutal. All right. And so really, they're not going to come up for air until about 2025. See what type of season and where the program is in the fall of 2025. And if it's not good enough, move on. And if it's good enough, then you extend them and you keep going.
Okay.
My
round
feeling,
table. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Edgar.
Let me say, I think if he really inherited the mess. Now, I have relitigated the Dan Mullen firing, his level of success. Mark Long and I do a podcast. We've talked about it ad nauseum. People are sick of me talking about Dan Mullen. I enjoyed dealing with Dan. I thought the football was fun to watch for them until the end, and it really went off the rails at the end. But if he truly left the program in the shape everyone says he did, and he inherited the mess everyone thinks he did, how can we be making a judgment after, I guess it was 18 games last week, now it's 19? That doesn't even correlate. If it was that bad, you got to give the guy time. But to 2025, I think you got to contend for a playoff spot or push for it by that point. You got to be like at least into November, a team that has a shot to push for one of those 12 spots. They got to get to that point by then. It can't be, we won 9 games in 2025. It's got to be growth, real growth.
Although, Edgar, and this is another discussion, think about what the SEC could be like with Oklahoma and Texas added by 2025. Fan bases in Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia are not going to want to hear, but you could actually have a really good team and go 9-3 because the schedule that you inherit could be absolutely brutal. Like, just for instance, next year, the Big Ten's already released their schedule. Michigan next year. Now, for as cupcake of schedules they are playing this year, next year Michigan will play Ohio State, USC, Oregon, Washington, and have a non-conference with Texas. That's 5 games with teams that are all ranked in the top 11 right now.
Nice.
Makes up for the cupcakes they had this year. They had so many cupcakes this year they can do.
But I'm just saying
that schedule this year.
You're making a very good point. I think you really have to. They can't be out of it by November.
Well, I agree with that. But Gator fans know what a good team looks like. They do. Okay. Whether like Muschamp went 12-1 one year, his second year, and most Gator fans were like, we're not that good.
They weren't. They were terrible offensively. They're blocking a punt to beat Louisiana.
Right.
They were pulling rabbits out of the hat that year.
Gator fans will know, okay, if midway through the 2025 season, whether or not this program is where it should be and whether they need a new coach or not. They'll know.
Well, but Edgar's right when he says, if Dan Mullen really left it in the place, and I think that's a whole different conversation for another day, but you can't say at the same time, we don't have the athletes to win these games. We don't, we're not there yet. And, let's go ahead and fire him right now because we're not winning. Because they both can't be that doesn't compute in my head. Like, we either have the athletes and we should be winning, and then you should be talking about why Napier's not and is he the right guy, or we don't have the puzzle pieces yet. Therefore, he gets more time, which I think that's where we are at the moment. But it's hard for me to wrap my head around the person that argues both, which I think is a lot of Gator fans.
Mm-hmm.
How about the thing that Urban said the other day and said many times? Don't always blame the last guy. I hate it too. I hate it when the TV guy comes in and says, boy, your TV is all screwed up. The guy who worked here before messed it up, and I'm going to fix it, you know. Or the plumber comes in. I don't know who's doing your plumbing, man, but they messed it up. Let me fix it. Urban had a rule. If you do that, you're fired. Do not blame the last regime. Everybody can do it. Everybody does it, but I don't buy that. If something's wrong, fix it. You know, I mean, yeah, you have to go through maybe a bad recruiting year, but everybody had to do it. Urban had the good fortune of actually having Ron Zook's recruiting. Because, by the way, he complimented Zook. A friend of mine sent that to Zook, and Zook was really touched by it. That Urban would say they called him a great coach, I think, Brenden, didn't he? So, anyway, so yes, that's what happened. So, I mean, you can't blame the last guy always. Sooner or later, it's got to stop somewhere. So, what do we have here? Is this something that Billy Napier can fix? And by fixing it, how does that? We know he's not going to get fired this year, but I think it's not just the records we're talking about, Edgar and Allie. And it's also how they play. Like you said, Allie, are they prepared on the road? Which, in my opinion, there's no excuse for that. Not especially and not getting the right number of players on the field. Those two things.
That's the biggest problem we're facing right now. I don't think if you had told Gator fans in July that going into this game, you would be 4-2, I think most of us would be like, all right, that's good. That's about where we thought we would be. Maybe it's even a little bit better. That means we picked up at least one that we probably shouldn't have. But it's the fact that we wait for 8 months and then we see that game against Utah where they do look wholly unprepared. They make mistakes that you know get benched in high school football for making. And then we see a similar effort against Kentucky. I don't know, buddy, something going on with the sound there.
I got it here. It's my bad. My phone went off.
I don't know, and then we see that same thing against Kentucky. If we took those two games and we played both those teams down to the wire, but still lost, we have a totally different outlook on this season. It's just the fact that we looked so unprepared in both of those games, made silly mistakes in both of those games that I think has Gator fans on edge. It's not actually the loss.
It's the quality of football. I mean, look at the Charlotte game. That team lost to Tarleton State, which is like a rodeo school or whatever.
Badly.
51 points or something. Is that right? No, that was McNeese. Excuse me. McNeese gave up 52 to Tarleton, and Florida gets 49.
And like 5 sacks.
Yes, and then yeah, that was McNeese. Excuse me. And then Charlotte was a tepid performance. They really, in my opinion, have played like one great quarter of football, like a great quarter against Tennessee. That's it. The second half kind of was not good. The first quarter was fine. I think the first quarter against McNeese was pretty explosive, but they couldn't cash in, if you recall. They kept settling for field goals. And they were so conservative about it. It's like, we're scared money don't make money. I mean, 4th and 1, you're kicking a field goal from the 8th. I couldn't believe that call. Yeah. So there's been just a football, like you had 8 guys on the field one play. You had 13 on another. It's just, come on, man. If you're about discipline and structure, none of that stuff should be happening. So I agree with Allie. It's the way the football looks. 4-2, 5-2, very good chance. Anyone would have taken that, but the football just hasn't looked great.
So what I want to know is, and David, I think you heard about this too. Did you ever get straightened out with Billy on him taking umbrage to your question and saying you didn't ask that question 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, which is the dumbest response I've heard out of him yet. So where did you stand on that? How are you and Billy now on that, Edgar?
Me? Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. He's feeling like backed into a corner. He's getting crushed. Okay. I mean, he's aware of what's being said. He's got an army of people probably listening, reading, watching. He knows what's going on, and he reads stuff and pays attention. And so, I don't know. I don't really. I just referenced the Vanderbilt game from last year because they happened to be playing Vanderbilt.
Wasn't even a bad, tough question. Wasn't that tough?
No. But it was like referencing, because he was acting like you weren't asking me these questions 2 weeks ago. And I said, well, Billy, it's kind of a cumulative effect. Mm-hmm. And I said, even last year you struggled with this is 2023. And then I could have said, well, you want to go talk about Utah again? Because you probably don't. So it's just, he's feeling the heat. I'm sure Scott Strickland's feeling the heat. Look, the reporters are feeling the heat. We get ripped when we're not like coming in there and saying you suck or your play calling stinks or whatever. That's the questions fans want us to basically ask them. It's just no one's happy right now. And winning this week, I don't know that they'll do it decisively, but getting a win on the road, getting healed up, giving Georgia a game, which we've seen is possible. It's also possible to get blown off the field like Kentucky did. And beating Arkansas, LSU, terrible defense, maybe competing in that game, possibly beating Mizzou, though they can score a lot, and not getting blown off the field against FSU would be the formula to keep the noise down a little.
Yeah. David, that's not a good look for a Florida coach to make a comment like that, though.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, when you get mentioned in the same sentence with Jim McElwain in terms of being able to handle the heat and the questions, that's not good, because that led to his quick demise. But listen, Billy's never been, the head guy in a situation this big before. And for that day, it looked too big for him. But, he's learning, he's growing. Listen, he needs to get players. He's doing a good job with the high school kids by all accounts. He's got to hit the portal. He just does. That's a fact of life. If you don't hit the portal, it's a slow build and you're probably not around to see the fruits of your labor. They have to hit the portal. We keep talking about Norvell and how many years he got from Florida State. Why did it work? He had two advantages that Napier doesn't have. One, he had a quarterback on campus. And two, he hit the portal. Napier doesn't have a quarterback on campus, and he's yet to really hit the portal. Hopefully, got the quarterback coming in and recruiting. If he could complement that with hitting the portal, he'll be fine.
I think our portal problem is tied to Napier being so detail oriented and so regimented and so process oriented, because I honestly think we miss the boat on some of these guys because we take too long to decide if they're a good fit, do our research and our homework on them, when in reality, you got to pull the trigger. You want them or you don't. It is a gamble in the portal. And I think we've missed out on guys because of that. And so, being process oriented is great for a lot of aspects of this. I don't think it's great for portal. We need him to just go ahead, be a salesman, get him to Florida, and then figure it out later, which kind of goes against the way that Billy Napier is as a person, seemingly. But we do need to have some transfer portal success. And, back to his press conference, I feel for him up there. I do, but I feel like he does himself no favors up there either. You hear all of these stories about his interactions with people in the office and former players, and every single thing you hear is just about what a great upstanding human being he is. And he really wanted to know about your life, and he doesn't just breeze over you, and these are all amazing things. But then he stands up there and he reads the same sentence off of paper week in and week out and expects to buy it. Like, you can't tell me we're evaluating, we're making changes, and then you put the same thing out there 5 weeks in a row and not expect somebody in the media sitting out there to be like, did you guys consider trying something new this week?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, if he had stood up there and been like, you know what, we sucked, we're back to the drawing board this week, I want to know who in my locker room wants this, because it didn't look like a whole lot of them did on Saturday. I've got to coach better, everybody's got to play better, and we let you guys down, and we're sorry. What would you say to that? Like,
I'd say, Allie, you do the post-game speech. That's what I'd say.
I mean, I'll do some coaching right before he runs out there. Like,
the portal, he hasn't been a complete disaster in the portal. Look, Graham Mertz has
been a good find, really good.
Yeah, Mertz is a great find.
Ricky Pearsall was portal. Montrell Johnson, Torrance, but they kind of followed him. Jalen Kimber's been their best cornerback. He
evaluates talent incredibly well, and you can see that
good.
He brought over with him that have then been successful in the SEC. He finds guys. I just don't know that he's moved fast enough.
Well, he hasn't. Yeah. To your point, and then what ends up happening, sorry to interrupt you, is Jacoby Jackson ends up on your roster. Deuce Spurlock. These guys aren't going to play.
Right.
And so you're giving guys scholarships, or it doesn't appear they're going to play. Maybe they'll evolve. But then you end up, because you didn't get enough guys, you're just trying to get depth.
Right.
And they got to get linemen out of the portal. Here's the thing that happened with Dan Mullen. 2019 class, they got one defensive tackle, Jalen Humphreys, still on the roster, doesn't play. 2020, they got 3. One was Jalen Lee, who's since transferred. One was Lamar Goods. He never did anything. And one was Javon Dexter, who was playing 65 snaps. Probably didn't, develop into who he could have been, but he was still, they damn glad they had him. No inside linebackers in either class. None. Derek Wengo was converted to one. That hurt them badly. Then you looked, so the interior of your defense you didn't have one. Then your offensive line recruiting was not there. I mean, Hevesy was not getting recruits there. Billy got 2 good ones this past year. Najee Harris, Rod Kearney looked like very good, future promising guys. But he has one guy, Fletcher Westphal, in this next class, top 20 tackle. He's 20, I believe. The other 2 guys are like 98 and 100 and whatever. And you need to get more offensive linemen. I mean, I think the rule of thumb, I think it used to be you need to get 5 a class, 4 to 5 a class. Yeah. And that hasn't been the case. You got to hit the portal. And Micah Mizuka was a bad evaluation. It looks like he was injured. And
how about Damian George?
Damian George was just a guy at Alabama.
He plays like a guy.
I'm just telling you, have like one really like experienced SEC level lineman out there, and that's Barber. The other guys are too young. Kingsley's been hurt all year. So that's the big problem with this team right now, and it's impeding everything they really want to do, I think.
One of the best lines of the week was last night when we had Whitley on. He says, is Florida the only school that's got a Princely and a Kingsley? He says, we need to have now is a Queensley, right? All right. So I want to get something that you said, Allie, last week. Personnel mistakes, okay? There's a couple we mentioned, but here's one, and you brought up a great point, Allie, last week. Why did it take them so long to pull the trigger on Trace Mack? They knew that the guy they had in Mihalik was kicking the ball low. Allie, you talked about this in practice all the time. And what did he when he got in the game? Kick the ball low.
Right. That is concerning to me. It either tells me whoever's watching special teams isn't great at evaluating what's going on, and not every coach knows how to coach special teams. And you don't have to be a kicker or a punter to be a special teams coach, but it certainly helps if you have some sort of knowledge about kicking or punting. But what I think it really actually points to is that they weren't putting the time and emphasis on special teams, so nobody fully noticed. But every single one of Mihalik's kicks had the same problem with it. And if we can watch you, 15 times over the first 4 games out there and you have the same problem, that's happening every single time on the practice field too. And so how that wasn't noticed, I don't love what that says about the attention to detail at practice.
Yeah. Let me say this in the time we're going to go overtime a little bit in this commercial-free hour, by the way. Thank you to our sponsors. We appreciate it very much them letting us do this. Great show tonight. Want to make it maximum. Let's drill this down to about the final thought. 60 seconds, whatever, no more. 6 games left on the schedule. How many are winnable? And likely to be won. And then where does Florida land in the overall picture of trying to beat that 5.5 wins? They're going to beat that probably. But what are these 6 games? We know, obviously, Georgia's not won. They got to win this weekend in South Carolina. Arkansas looks very winnable. LSU, their defense is not very good, but I don't think they can win Baton Rouge. Missouri, I don't know about Missouri. They're a mystery, their offense, and FSU. Let's start with David. David, which one of those are really, really winnable games?
Well, they need to win Saturday, or else making a bowl is in doubt, quite frankly.
Jeopardy, yeah.
They're going to be an underdog going to Missouri. Probably the only game they're going to be, of all the games you just mentioned, including Saturday when they were a 2-point underdog, the only game they'll be favored in is Arkansas, which shows, try to sum up in 60 seconds listening to everyone.
I know it's hard.
No. But think about where we are. He's a year and a half in. And at the end of his second year, we've all agreed he needs an offensive coordinator. He needs a special teams coach. Right. He needs to tremendously upgrade the talent. We've all basically agreed about that. That's 2 years into the gig. He needs a play caller. He needs a special teams coach, and he needs a lot more talent. I think all Gator fans thought they'd be a little further along in the process than they are.
Yeah. Looking at maybe a better record going to Georgia. Edgar, what's it look like from this standpoint? 4-2 with 3 winnable games, maybe? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I ran through the whole thing. What I thought best case was some competitive. You got to be competitive in some of those. Look, you just got to show up, man. Mm-hmm. Right? Like Allie pointed out, Utah. You have all this time, and you come out. It looks like you just forgot a game was that week. It was like, I get it. They had to leave a day early because of the hurricane. In fairness, it was a long trip, and it's altitude. Cam Jackson even talked about that. Someone finally admitted the altitude impacted him. I lived in New Mexico for years.
Yeah.
I walked up the stairs the first time I got to Albuquerque. I'm like, hold on, I was like 20-year-old guy. It's like, man, so yeah, that was a bad look. Kentucky was an even worse look. You realize they went punt, interception, 3-and-out, interception, punt, and Kentucky scored on all 4 possessions and was leading 23-0. It just got blown off the field that day. Really? I mean, you can't do that. And
that was a good 23-0.
Yeah,
that was a good 23-0 deficit, really. Yeah. Should have been worse.
And then you got to win this weekend. I think it's a must, as Dave pointed out. And you have to beat Arkansas at home. They got to bring it, the fans. And someone said to me today, was saying fans need to come when the team's down, not when the team's always winning. You got to lift the team up sometimes. I know that's idealistic, but it's true. So they need to win those 2 games and then have a puncher's chance at Missouri. I don't think they're going to keep Jaden Daniels from doing his thing in Tiger Stadium, and FSU. I just don't see that. So 6 wins though, and then they go to a bowl game.
Yeah.
And
good year.
Just play better, man. And get some of these young guys going.
And coach better. Play better and coach
Wilson,
better.
let's see him take the next step. Let's see some of these other guys take the next step as players.
Yeah. Allie, then Brenden.
The most winnable left on the schedule is South Carolina and Arkansas. Missouri's winnable, but Florida hasn't been good on the road, and Missouri will be cold. It's in November. It'll probably be early. Shamar James told us they don't do good at noon games. So, that's and Missouri scores a lot of points. So that is going to be a hard game. If the Florida we saw for one half against Tennessee shows up against Georgia, LSU, Florida State, those games can be competitive. That doesn't mean that Florida's necessarily going to win any of them, but there's not a game left on the schedule where I'm like, well, it's going to be 50-0. Georgia's the closest thing to that, but we've seen Georgia look, very beatable at times this season, but they've got to show up, and if they win, if they beat South Carolina and they beat Arkansas and they finish with 6 wins, but they're competitive in all of the other games, I think that's probably just as good as being 7-5 or 8-4. Show us you have a pulse, show us you can compete, even if at the end you don't win that game. You just can't lose like you lost to Utah and Kentucky. Like, you have to remember it's a game day. You have to show up.
David, I think you wanted to say something there.
Well, no, just that they've played 24 quarters this year, and we don't know if they've played 5 really good ones. I mean, Allie, unfortunately, I have to look at the first half of Tennessee as the aberration because they haven't played like that in any other game this year against a quality opponent.
Yeah.
Brenden?
As if the first half he was.
Yeah.
Anything, Brendo?
Yeah, I mean, I talk on this channel all day long. I don't think, I've talked about it, 5 times this week. So, I'm just really appreciative of our guest being on here and joining us and going a little bit late tonight because, y'all kept them past their milk and cookies. So I don't really think on this panel anyone cares what I think. At the end of the day.
I'm intimidated. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm not saying. I'll say it again. I think Billy's adaptable. I think we learned that early. I think he likes to take notes of what he does every day, right? He's very meticulous. He's smart. He's young. Why not him figuring it out in the end of the day? Because look, any one of us is going to put in that slot, and I know he's getting paid millions of dollars, but whatever. Think about the job. I've had big jobs before. Moving a ship is hard, right? Like, or turning the ship. I don't know what the saying is.
Turning around.
yeah, whatever.
I
Moving
mean,
that, getting that done is not an easy deal for anybody. And coming in to what his situation was, I think it is commendable at the end of the day. So I don't know. It's hard to say what team shows up on the road because we've all seen that whole debacle. So it's the tale of two teams because of the guys who show up and Billy who shows up against Tennessee on the road this week, then they got a shot. But like, Edgar said, look, they got pulverized by Kentucky. Like it was bad. Like I was there with Edgar sitting next to you in the press box when they got killed by Utah. And I think that's the last time we saw any sort of like potential, trips or more sort of like an advanced offense where he tried to work back then. And it just seemed like that didn't go all that well. So I don't know. It's the tale of how Graham Mertz can handle the road, how these guys can deal because we've seen two different teams. And I know that's a crap response, but because I think they could beat a lot of teams on the road, including Missouri. I think that there is a winnable out, and I think they're going to struggle, obviously, against Georgia, and they're definitely not going to win, I don't think, against
That's not hard. What's hard is when you're old, like David Moulton.
They could lose Missouri
staying up
really
this late.
Fast.
We apparently lost David, so we'll say
Oh, no, he
to
just
him.
came back. Hold on. Here he is. All right, we'll say
goodnight
goodnight
before
to
we all fall
everybody.
asleep here.
Sorry, David.
Yeah, let's see if he's there. He might have gotten more. Oh, there he is.
Right there. Yeah.
Well, see, I told you he wasn't sleeping, although I was about to go to sleep. David, thank you. Great job, my friend.
You all take care. Have a great rest of your week, and let's hope things get a little better on Saturday because it's a program.
I think we
Love you,
lost him.
David.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Hey,
Thanks,
Edgar,
David.
good stuff, Edgar.
Good,
Thank
bud.
you, man. Thanks
for having me. I enjoyed it. I tell you, Allie, I need to start watching your show, man. You're very. I've watched it a couple of times. But you were great, and thanks for letting us have the floor, buddy. Appreciate it.
That was honestly that was really fun. Like just laying back and letting everyone go. That was an excellent panel. Super interesting stuff.
Allie, close yours for 1 second, okay? She's terrific. Okay, that's good. That's all I want to say. All right. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Allie. Appreciate it.
Good
night, Edgar. Good night, everybody. Let's say good night to our guests and say thank you very much. It was an excellent.
Let's just thank our sponsors real fast. We didn't do any commercials tonight. We had such a great group, and obviously, Melda Law. They won't back down. They sponsor us all the time. Restaurant Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today, and then Titan MRI. Worth a short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, no car, no problem. Thank you all for letting us do this show tonight. It's been really fun, Brenden. What a group, huh?
Yeah, super great. I mean, that you and I yammer all day long on here, so it's nice to lay back and hear these guys and gals bring it because that was good information. There's about 1,000 sound bites in there.
Thank you. Great job, Brenden. I love you. Have a good night.
Wait, now you didn't do our you're not doing Ren Star or we're just
I said we're not doing a commercial free night tonight. The thing for courtesy of our sponsors.
I didn't know we were going all hardcore commercial free.
Yeah, we did. But just thank them all. We'll get them further.
All right, so it's commercial free. That's it. We can't talk about anything more. I won't tell anybody about anything about joining GatorbaitMedia.com or any of that stuff. But
you can tell them that if you want to. And smash it.
And smash the subscribe button, please. Yeah. If you're on Facebook, I'm glad you've enjoyed us there, but don't get used to it because we'll be exclusively on YouTube eventually.
Yeah.
We'll get caught for broadcasting in places.
Great job, Brenden. Have a good night.
Great job, Dad. Have a good night. Good night. Here it is. Good night, everybody. And always go Gators.